She walked into the most powerful room in Atlanta with $1 billion deal in her purse and a target on her back she didn't know existed until a diamond-ringed hand cracked across her face and the most dangerous man in the room slowly set down his champagne glass and turned around. The invitation had said black tie. Feria wore midnight, not the shy, apologetic midnight of a woman trying to blend in, but the kind that absorbs light and gives nothing back. Her gown was structured, sleeveless, fitted at the waist with the quiet confidence of a woman who had stopped dressing for rooms a long time ago and had started dressing for herself. She arrived at the Grand Callaway Hotel at 7:51 p.m. alone. No publicist, no entourage. No armor except the kind you build across 20 years of being the only one in every room who looked like her. Feria Osei, 39, was the founder and CEO of Nova Bridge Capital, a firm she had built from a $15,000 loan, 2 laptops, and a refusal to accept the word no as a complete sentence. The company was now valued at $6.8 billion. Her signature on the acquisition agreement, scheduled for tomorrow morning, would finalize a $1 billion deal that would restructure the future of an entire legacy manufacturing empire. She had not come to be seen. She had come to finish what 11 months of work had started. Across the ballroom, at a table draped in white linen and inherited arrogance, the Caldwell family held court. Sterling Caldwell, 64, his wife Diane, 59. Their daughter, Priscilla, 31, already on her 3rd glass of champagne, already surveying the room with the practiced cruelty of someone raised to sort people into categories before they'd spoken a word. None of them knew her name. That was the last mistake they would ever make. If you've ever walked into a room where people underestimated you before you spoke, drop a nunting in the comments. This one's for you. Feria moved through the crowd with quiet purpose, champagne untouched, eyes scanning for her assigned table near the front. She never reached it. Diane Caldwell stepped directly into her path, not accidentally, deliberately. The way a woman steps in front of someone she has already decided doesn't belong. Excuse me. Diane's voice was champagne cold. Staff entrance is around the back. Feria stopped, looked at her evenly. I'm a guest. Diane's smile didn't move. I'm sure there's been a mix-up. Darling, these tables are reserved. My name is on the primary list. Feria's voice was steady. Feria Os A, table 4. Something shifted in Diane's expression, not recognition, but irritation. The irritation of a woman unaccustomed to being contradicted by someone she'd already categorized. I don't care what name you gave at the door, then check the list. Feria said it simply. No anger, no trembling, just clarity. That was what broke Diane, not the words, the stillness. Diane reached out and grabbed Feria's wrist. Hard, you need to leave. Feria looked down at the hand on her wrist, then back up. Let go of me. What happened next was witnessed by 60 people and recorded by at least 9 phones. Diane released her wrist and swung. The slap landed sharp and clean across Feria's left cheek. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Every conversation within 30 feet collapsed into silence. Feria didn't stumble, didn't cry, didn't rage. She stood completely still, touched her cheek once with 2 fingers, almost clinical, and then slowly turned her gaze across the room. That's when she saw him, a man she had not expected to see here. Lin Min Ho, watching everything. His champagne glass held perfectly still, his eyes locked on hers. And something passed between them that neither could name yet. 60 people watched, not one moved. A senator's wife looked at her shoes. A banking executive suddenly found his phone fascinating. 2 women near the floral display turned away, slowly, deliberately, the way people turn from accidents they don't want to be witnesses to. Feria registered every single one of them. She had been in rooms that chose silence before. She knew its texture, the specific cowardice of people who oppose cruelty privately but won't pay the social cost of opposing it publicly. She didn't need them. Sterling Caldwell appeared at his wife's elbow, having crossed the room toward the sound. He listened to Diane's whispered account, nodded twice, and said, loudly enough for 4 nearby guests to hear, "You did the right thing. Someone has to maintain standards." Feria heard every word. She gave no indication. She reached into her clutch, retrieved her phone, and made a call that lasted 19 seconds. The only words anyone nearby caught were quiet and final. Cancel tomorrow, all of it. She ended the call, placed the phone away, walked to her assigned table, table 4, exactly where she said it would be, and sat down. Picked up the menu card. Read it with the calm of someone who had nowhere else to be. Across the room, Lin Min Ho had not moved. He had watched the slap, watched the silence, watched the phone call. Now he watched her sit down alone, untouched by the room's verdict, unbothered by its cowardice, and something shifted behind his eyes. He set his champagne on a passing tray and began moving through the crowd. The room went silent when she needed them most. Have you ever been betrayed by silence? Tell me below. I read every comment. He sat down across from her without asking. Fairy looked up from the menu card. The man was dressed in charcoal and calm, Lin Min Ho, 44, whose name appeared in no newspapers voluntarily, but whose reach touched 4 continents, 12 industries, and more government corridors than most elected officials. He ran the most powerful private investment syndicate in Southeast Asia. He was not supposed to be in Atlanta. Nobody knew why he was here. Nobody asked. That was either the bravest thing I've seen in 20 years of attending these events, he said quietly, or the most expensive. Faria held his gaze. Why not both? Something moved at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. Almost. You canceled the deal. It wasn't a question. I did. 11 months of work. Yes. He leaned forward slightly. Most people would have absorbed it, preserved the deal, told themselves it wasn't worth the battle. Faria set the menu card down. Then most people have been absorbing it for so long they've forgotten what it cost them. Lin Minho studied her for a long moment, the way a man studies something he wasn't expecting to find and isn't sure yet what to do with the finding. I watched them, he said, the whole room. Nobody moved. I know. Didn't that make it worse? She considered the question honestly. It confirmed something I needed confirmed. He tilted his head. What? That the only person I could rely on in that room, she said, was already at that table. A beat of silence. You mean yourself, he said. She picked up the menu card again. I mean myself. Lin Minho sat back. And for reasons he would spend the next several weeks trying to explain to himself, he stayed. The ballroom noise softened around them like the world had agreed to give them distance. Lin Minho signaled a server. Water for both. No champagne. Nova Bridge Capital, he said. I know your firm. Faria didn't react. Most people in this room don't. Most people in this room are decorative. He said it without cruelty. Just fact. I followed your work for 3 years. The Meridian restructuring, the Lagos infrastructure deal, the way you handled the Soren collapse without a single public statement. He paused. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? He was quiet for a moment. Someone louder. She almost smiled. Loud is for people who aren't sure they're right. Something crossed his face then. Not amusement, but recognition. The look of a person who has heard their own private philosophy spoken aloud by someone else. He had built his empire in silence too, in rooms where no one pronounced his name correctly, where his accent was mimicked behind closed hands, where his billion-dollar offers were initially routed to junior staff because nobody looked at his face and assumed authority. He had never said this to anyone. He almost said it now. Instead, why did you come tonight? You didn't need the gala for the signing. Faria was quiet. Then, I came because I believed how people behave in a ballroom tells you who they'll be in a boardroom. And I was right. She glanced toward the Caldwell table, just not in the way I anticipated. Lin Minho followed her gaze. Sterling Caldwell was laughing, loudly, freely, apparently unaware that his company's future had already been canceled. Lin Minho turned back to Fergia. What will you do now? She met his eyes. Find a better partner. The word partner landed between them and neither moved to pick it up. Not yet. They stayed at that table for 40 minutes. The gala swirled around them. Toasts, laughter, orchestrated warmth, and none of it touched the quiet that had formed between them like its own private room. Lim Min Ho told her about Seoul in 1999, a boardroom where 3 men laughed openly at his proposal, how he had walked out, driven to the Han River, sat on a bench until 3 a.m., and decided that humiliation was only permanent if you let it write the next chapter. Faria told him about Memphis in 2008, a bank manager who denied her second loan application and told her, gently, with a sympathetic smile, that her type of business wasn't something they could support. How she had sat in her car outside that bank and cried exactly once, then started the car and drove to the next bank. How many banks? Lin Min Ho asked. 7, he nodded slowly. I visited 11 investors before the first. Yes, 11. A pause. The 12th changed everything. Faria looked at him. What made you keep going after the 10th? He was quiet for a long moment. Anger, at first. He turned his glass slowly, then something cleaner. I stopped needing them to believe in me. I just needed to believe in the work. She stared at him. Those were her exact words, from a journal she'd written at 27 that nobody had ever read. Stop needing them to believe in you. Believe in the work. You've thought about this a lot, she said carefully. I've had to. He looked at her directly. Haven't you? The string quartet shifted into something slower, warmer. Neither of them noticed they'd been leaning closer. 2 people who built everything from nothing, finding each other in the last place they expected. Did you see this coming? Comment Faria if you want them together. It arrived from the direction of the Caldwell table. Priscilla Caldwell, 31, 3 glasses deep, armed with the particular recklessness of someone whose family is crumbling and doesn't know it yet, crossed the ballroom toward them with her phone raised. She had done her research in the last 20 minutes. Lin Min Ho. She smiled brightly. I didn't realize you 2 knew each other. Small world. She glanced at Faria with a smile that wasn't one. You know she canceled her own deal tonight over nothing. A misunderstanding. She laughed lightly. Imagine blowing up $1 billion over a little social friction. Lin Min Ho said nothing. Priscilla continued, undeterred. My father would love to connect with you directly. Nova Bridge isn't the only firm that can structure this acquisition. We have options. She placed a card on the table in front of him. Real options. Then she leaned slightly toward Feria and said, quietly enough that only their table could hear, "You should have used the back entrance when you had the chance." She walked away smiling. The silence she left was a different kind. Feria looked down at the table. Something had tightened in her jaw. Lin Min Ho looked at the card. Then at Feria. "She's trying to replace you," he said. "I know, with me as leverage. I know. A beat." "Does it change anything?" he asked quietly. "What we discussed." Feria looked up at him slowly, and something in his expression, careful, watching, genuinely asking, cracked something open in her chest that she wasn't prepared for. "It shouldn't," she said. But she stood up, smoothed her gown. "I need air." And she walked away before he could see that her hands were trembling. The terrace was empty. Atlanta spread below her, lit, indifferent, continuous, and Feria stood at the railing and breathed and let herself feel everything she'd been containing since the moment Diane Caldwell's hand had crossed the air between them. The sting of it, the public nature of it, the 60 people who watched and organized themselves around their own comfort instead of her dignity. And Lin Min Ho, who had crossed the room, sat down uninvited and stayed. She heard the terrace door open behind her. She didn't turn around. "You forgot something," Lin Min Ho said. She turned. He was holding her clutch. She'd left it at the table. He held it out. She took it. Their fingers touched briefly, and neither pulled away immediately. "I owe you an explanation," she said. "You don't." Priscilla's comment. She stopped. Started again. "I've spent 20 years building something real. And there are always people who will try to use what I've built as a tool to access something I'm standing next to." She met his eyes. "I didn't want to wonder if you were one of them." Lin Min Ho was quiet for a long moment. Then, "In 2019, I walked away from a $3 billion merger because the lead partner made a comment about my nationality at dinner. My legal team thought I'd lost my mind." He paused. "I understood tonight the moment I saw your face after that slap, before you even made the call." She looked at him. "I'm not here for the Caldwells," he said. "I'm not here for their deal." A pause. "I came to this gala because someone told me the CEO of Nova Bridge would be here, and I've been trying to find a reason to be in the same room as you for 2 years." The city hummed below them. "That's inconvenient," Feria said softly. "Extremely," he agreed. Three things happened before midnight. First, Sterling Caldwell received a message from his CFO confirming that Nova Bridge's withdrawal had triggered an automatic review clause with their primary lender. The $1 billion deal hadn't just been paused. Its collapse had exposed a structural fault in Caldwell Industries' debt arrangement that their legal team had buried in footnotes for 2 years. By morning, it would be front page. Second, Lin Min Ho made a call from the terrace. 12 minutes. When he came back to where Feria was standing, he said simply, "I'd like to propose something." She waited. "My syndicate has been looking for a North American acquisition vehicle for 8 months. Nova Bridge's infrastructure portfolio is exactly the structure we need." He held her gaze. "Not a merger, a partnership. Equal terms. Your leadership remains entirely intact." Feria studied him for a long moment. "You're serious." "I don't make terrace calls for proposals I'm not serious about." She looked out at the city, at the lights. At the distance, she'd crossed a stand in this exact spot. She had walked into this gala to close one deal. She was walking out with something larger and something she hadn't planned for at all. "Send the term sheet Monday," she said. "Monday." He nodded. Then, "And the other thing?" She looked at him. "Dinner," he said. "Not a meeting, not a negotiation." A pause. "Just dinner." The corner of her mouth moved. "Finally, Wednesday," she said. He smiled then fully, genuinely, and it rearranged his entire face into something warmer than anything the ballroom had seen from him all evening. Third, as they walked back inside together, Diane Caldwell looked up from across the room and saw them side by side. She went very still, because she recognized Lin Min Ho. Everyone in that world recognized Lin Min Ho. And she understood in that instant, with the slow, cold clarity of someone counting the cost of a single decision, exactly what her hand had cost her family when it crossed the air between them. Feria didn't look at her. She had no reason to. She walked through the ballroom beside a man who had seen her clearly from the beginning, toward a door that opened into everything she hadn't known she was also building toward. The slap had lasted 1 second. What it built would last a lifetime. Some rooms try to tell you who you are. Build something so real, so undeniable, that eventually the room has to tell itself a different story.